Hi folks, very welcome to the 2023 Women in Dark Skies, our first event online of the year. So thank you for joining us. We've got quite a few people registered tonight, so we're just going to give a minute to let people in, and if that's okay, before we introduce our guest speaker. And just while those of you that are joining us and are coming in at the moment, we have set up a menti.com question, which we've used before. So what I'm going to do is ask you where you're from, and there's a code. So if you go to menti.com and you type in the code that I'm going to give you, which is 2711 0227, and we're going to pop that in the chat box for you as well, and just tell us where you're from. And before then, you can see where we're from. So for those of you that haven't been to us before in person, we are coming to you from County Mayo on the west coast of Ireland, and here's just a couple of shots of our daytime view, and of course a lovely poster of the sky at night. So as we like to say, half the park is after dark, and that's Mayo International Dark Sky Park. And so if I can turn to you and ask you where you are from, it would be great to hear from you. If you can go to menti.com on your phones, and it should give you an option if you type in the code. Hello Wexford, yay, it works. 2711 0227. And we will give you a couple of minutes. So just while we are taking your answers, just a little bit of housekeeping. So we are recording this. Those of you that were in the waiting room at the beginning would have got a message, but just so that you know, we are recording, and if you prefer to keep your cameras off, that's absolutely fine. If you want to leave them on too, that's fine. The only thing we do ask is that you keep your microphones off whilst Sibylle will be presenting, and at the end, depending on how many people end up in the room, we may or may not come to ask you by microphone to ask a question. What we will probably do is ask you to pop questions in the chat box, and we will also have some questions for you coming up as well. So where are you joining us from? So I see Nottingham, very welcome. Berlin, of course, very welcome. Wisconsin, US, I think you have been with us a few times, so thank you for that. And Woodstock, New York, so we are international tonight. That's fantastic. So thank you for joining us here in County Mayo in Ireland. We hope we'll see you in person one day. What I might do is leave the Menti open, but I'm going to take the share off so you can continue to put your locations in. I'll take the share off and say hello to you between myself and Sibylle. So welcome everyone, my name's Georgia Macmillan, and I'm based in Mayo Dark Sky Park. I'm the Dark Sky Development Officer. And tonight, as I said, it's the first of our Women in Dark Skies series. And today in Ireland is a bank holiday. We're celebrating St. Bridget's Day, which I think is appropriate to have this first event for Women in Dark Skies. So St. Bridget, one of our 3 patron saints, and aside of any denomination or any religious context, she was a very inspirational woman. So I think that's one of the reasons that it's a good time to have this event. And happy St. Bridget's Day. So this evening we have Sibylle Schroer. And Sibylle, I've been looking forward to inviting Sibylle for a long time. She is a great researcher, and she has received the Galileo Award from the International Dark Sky Association for her work in combating light pollution. The award itself is given in recognition of outstanding achievements in research or academic work on light pollution over a multiple year period. Sibylle has been the science coordinator of the Light Pollution and Ecophysiology Working Group in the Leibniz Institute of Freshwater Ecology and Inland Fisheries in Berlin since 2010. So she's now coordinator for her research about freshwater biodiversity and sustainability at IGB, and she studied horticulture and science and holds a PhD in agriculture. Her research interest is the protection of insects and their habitat from anthropogenic impacts. So what better reason to discuss than the anthropogenic light pollution that we are all keen to hear more about. And I think with that, may I introduce Sibylle, and welcome you, Sibylle. Thank you very much for joining us, and I will hide my face here now so you can continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the nice introduction, and also thank you for the invitation to do this little seminar here. I will share my screen now. Hope everything works. Yeah, I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, we can.
Nice. So I'm from the, in short, IGB, the Leibniz Institute for Water Ecology and Inland Fisheries. And we do research around the water. And that's why today I want to focus on the biodiversity of water. Let me see. I have 4 chapters prepared for you tonight. It is first, the impact of artificial light at night, in short, Alan, on the freshwater case, like I said. Then I want to introduce the idea of human-centric lighting, and if we do not versus need nature-centric lighting. I want to introduce you to the idea of transformative change, where you might have heard a lot from, that might rescue our world, ? And I put this into the content of our development, what we have done in our working group, Light Pollution and Ecophysiology at the IGB. And in the end, I want to put all of my talk, all my content into the association of the St. Bridget Day, and happy St. Bridget Day to everybody in Ireland. We do not have this day, and I learned a lot. And yeah, okay, let's start with the first chapter, the impact of artificial light at night on the freshwater. I start right away with hormones, so the reproductive hormones. A lot of people that rear fish know that when you rear fish under continuous lighting, you can suppress the hormones for reproduction. And this is needed because then the fish can gain more and more biomass. You can sell more flesh in the end, which is nice. But Annika Brüning from our institute a couple of years ago in her studies showed that in the wild, she could show on caged perch that the reproductive hormones were as well suppressed by artificial light at night in form of streetlights next to the water body. What else happens is that the migration, the vertical migration, the up and down of organisms in the water can be suppressed. So small organisms like zooplankton and small fishes tend to use the cover of darkness to go into upper layers of the freshwater body and to consume algae there. And already sky glow was shown that could this light emission, not the direct one, but the reflection of many, many light sources on the water body could suppress this vertical movement of the small organisms. And this was also shown in a marine body with small and medium-sized fishes, which tend to come up into upper layers of the water at nighttime. You can see this on the black curve here, that compared to the daytime where they stayed in deeper layers, this is the blue curve, they would come up at nighttime and consume their food in upper layers. But when artificial light at night was turned on at this area, then this movement was suppressed until the early hours of the night, or the early morning hours. And it was also shown that streetlight had an impact on the timing and the dispersal of fish fry. And yeah, these little schools of salmon need to be in schools to be protected, because individual would have rather bigger risk to be caught by predators. The eel is also a great migrator. We know this, and the eel is now protected because we hardly have any eels left, and fishery are thinking, so the EU is also banning the eel from fishing because this species is really threatened. They migrate from the Sargasso Sea into European freshwater bodies, also American, but here I want to focus on Europe. They migrate into the freshwater bodies and then back to reproduce again. And on their journey, they are guided by different cues, and lunar and magnetic, chemicals and magnetic, or odors, salinity, and water current. And 1944, when everybody focused on the war, there was a woman, Rosemary Love. She did behavior experiments on eels. At this time, we had quite a lot of eels in Europe. And she would show that the light changed the behavior a lot, and that the eel is highly light sensitive and has a negative phototaxis. A fun fact about these studies done in 1944 is that nobody was allowed to see the light outside of the water column because of the restriction, because of war. So she really had to take care that she did her experiments so that nobody can see the light. She turned on lights in the water column and for half an hour, and then turned them off for half an hour again. And here you can see that about 80 to 90% of the eel did not migrate through the normal path, but stopped migrating. And then even the little trap outside of the light into the net, they didn't find. So they really stopped their migration and hid in the dark before they could continue again when it was dark. So migration is disturbed. We have reproduction problems in the water column, but the most problem is the distortion of the ecosystem. Like I have shown before, the smaller organisms will stay in the dark and hide from predators. Larvae that normally drift at nighttime to go forward in the water column will hide in the sediment. And insects that emerge mostly at nighttime out of the water into the terrestrial phase, they can be caught at the luminaires at water, at the riparian area. We call this a vacuum cleaner effect. So they are sucked onto the light sources and they are drawn out of their ecological function. With this, I come to my second chapter, human-centric versus nature-centric lighting. Here's the definition for human-centric lighting. Human-centric lighting is intended to describe indoor lighting, solutions that considers the traditional elements of lighting quality, while simultaneously incorporating new insights about the non-visual effects of light, saying that the human body reacts to light in different ways during the whole day. In the morning, we need light to wake up. The melatonin of the night will be suppressed. We then become active, have different activism phases during the whole day. And in the evening, the melatonin secretion drops in again. Melatonin is the hormone of the dark. It is important for us to recreate. So when we become tired and we want to go in bed, then all the activity of the day stops and our body gains the possibility of the immune recreation, of growing for kids. Everything which cannot be done when our body is active will be done by night. And artificial light at night can suppress the melatonin. Everybody might know this. When you are at the computer, you suddenly get a flow and you think, wow, in the evening hours, I can work really good. I can concentrate and focus much better. But the thing that happens is you suppress your melatonin, and you get awake again, you get another flow. And with human-centric lighting in indoor areas, this whole circadian rhythm of humans is adopted in the lighting. And you might have seen this maybe on planes when in the evening, an evening light is done and less blue light. So in the evening, they take out the blue light so that the people can get tired and maybe sleep on the plane. Or the opposite happens, that in the afternoon, we have really bright color to keep you longer awake. Actually, we do need this for outdoor lighting and to consider the natural hormones or the natural rhythms, the circadian rhythms of the organisms, because they quite react similar to human organisms. Higher vertebrates all are related to the melatonin secretion, even nighttime organisms. Their activity starts with melatonin secretion, and with the suppression, the activity stops and they can fall asleep again. So actually, it would be nice to also adopt the idea of human-centric lighting for nature, for outdoor lighting. And then the wording for human-centric lighting could be changed into nature-centric lighting, which is intended to describe outdoor lighting, solutions that consider the traditional elements of lighting quality while simultaneously incorporating new lights about the non-visual effects, the melatonin, and the adverse effects of artificial light at night on nature. How could we do this? It's not rocket science. We could minimize the light that we use and not spreading it everywhere, but guiding it to where we actually need it. We should not use the colors of the morning in the nighttime, but use warm colors adopted to nighttime. We should not over-illuminate everywhere, but use light as much as needed and not more. And if we do all this, for example, on a camping place in a nature protected area, then something like this happens. We still find our ways. We still find the way to the reception. We can go to the lake and we can enjoy the stars. But the opposite happens right now. We have environments, especially at freshwater bodies, that are illuminated far too much, and it's increasing year by year. When I was still coordinating in the light pollution and ecophysiology group, we talked about 2 to 6% increase of illumination at nighttime. Now the brightness is at 6 to 10%, so it is increasing fast. We had a vision in our working group. When we have a normal street light, then the illumination is quite high at the light source. So when you need have light poles at about 12 meters height, you will have to apply 5,000 lux at the luminaire's head to illuminate with about 8 lux at the street. So something like this happens at the luminaire's heads. They are highly attractive and out of the water body. This is a lamp at daytime at which mayflies landed. Mayflies are also highly at risk. They have dropped in numbers by 40 to 70%. And EU groups are intended to just protect these species. And most of the animals at this lamp are mayflies. So we thought, why not giving these lamps a mask? I was reading the book of Margaret Atwood at this time, and I was always thinking of a woman that had this huge hat and nobody could see the luminaire's head because the mask would go all over the head. But my other colleagues, they were more into the idea of a Darth Vader mask. So this is why we sometimes call the development of our lamp Darth Vader lamp. So our colleague, Catherine Perez-Vega, she's a good illustrator and she could put this into an illustration, the idea. On the left side, you see the luminaires you normally see in parks and in towns that have these column shape, and they emit the light in the horizontal and everywhere. And we wanted to not only on the right side have full cutoff lamps, but a shutter around the light at the luminaire's head. And we got some funding for this from the Federal Agency for Conservation. And in this program, the project is called Species Protection Through Environmental Friendly Lighting. And in this program, we got money to do the transfer, to develop the lamp and then get it into communities. We have 4 communities that will, in this year, transfer to the new lighting. Here's how this has materialized. So we got an industrial lamp here, and we got what you can see, the shutter box around. And with this, we went into our field. You see it here on the photo on the right side. And we were quite happy because it really did what we wanted. There was low emission outside of the target area, which means there's less stress on plant leaves. You can measure this, that when they are not illuminated directly, there will be a better sleep-wake rhythm for higher vertebrates. There will be a higher potential for nighttime pollination and higher potential for bats to cross the illuminated path. There will be less sky glow and no light pollution on the water body. So we were quite happy with what we found, and we were happy with the light on our experimental field. But there were also critical arguments. When applied in too large pole distance, you will have dark gaps in between because the light field is not as good as before. Moving objects from outside of the target area cannot be perceived well, and they could just jump into the way when you cycle along here. Maybe you can see on the left side my colleague Andreas Jecho kneeling down. So he could be a threat if he was a cat or something just running into the way. And the efficacy of the lamp is too low. This was something I did not understand, so I went deeper into the subject. Why is the efficacy of the lamp so low? Efficacy is calculated by the luminous flux per power. So if you take a lamp like here on the left side, you have a whole lot of emission in all directions. And compared to a lamp on the right side, which is directed to where it needs to illuminate, this left lamp would have a better efficacy. So if you do not consider the area that you really need to light, you will have a bad measurement. So to use sustainable measurements, there's even a norm for calculating the area that is needed on the street to be illuminated, and we call it utilance. So whenever someone says this is not efficient, the light, then ask again if this was calculated right. And here's a table done by the TU Berlin for our new lighting. On the left side, you see the old luminaire, which we find in our communities. On the right side, our new luminaire. So in average, our new luminaire is a bit brighter than what we have in the communities. These communities, as the Star Park communities, they illuminate pretty low. We have an average 1.2 lux on the street. So this is a very low illumination and sufficient because the people live with this very long. But this illumination comes down to very dark gaps, and our lamp did the same. So the minimal illumination was quite low, up down to 0. And the uniformity, which is said to be important for street safety, was also pretty low. But besides this, compared to the old lamp, the emission around the luminaire's head was much lower with our new shutter box, and we lowered it quite a lot, and also the emission upwards. And the emission outside of the target area, the edge illumination ratio, which is normally taken by lighting planners to see if enough light is on the sideways to see objects moving. This we lowered almost to 0. And what is most important, the TI, the threshold increment, this is a number about the glare, was lowered a lot, and this glare is actually always blending your eye. And because we have such low threshold increment, incrimination values, we think that objects outside of the pathway will better be seen than actually with the column luminaires. Here are examples. We got another project in the south of Germany where we could install the new lamps. And in the picture above, you see how the pathway is illuminated with the old luminaires. And the change is shown under this. Afterwards, you see that all the trees and everything that needs darkness, the organisms living in the trees, are really in darkness and not as bright as upstairs. And when you imagine you fly out of the water, this is the front picture above. This was the attraction beforehand towards the luminaire, and now we have reduced it quite a lot. I'm not able to show you here the first results, but I can tell you they are quite significant, but we have to publish them first. The attraction of insects is quite less. So we will have a solution, and we would like to have the solution all over Europe, at all places where we have very high biodiversity, where we have sensitive areas that are important to be protected. So we want to go a transformative change. We want to do something that new lighting is applied. And I want to let you know a bit about the thoughts and the pathway that we have to go to get this lighting into communities. The transformative change is advocated by the UN and other intergovernmental platforms like IPBES. It says we should do things differently, not just a little bit. And fundamental system-wide recognition across technological, economic, and society is needed. So many sentences said that we really need to change a lot. And for me, important it is said that enthusiastic individuals and social relations they succeed in transforming are necessary. This is really important, that we need people with a lot of power, and I will show you why. Here I tried to circumvise the changes needed for transformative change. So you have science on the left side, the science of technology, engineering, and mathematics, but they need to work interdisciplinary with social science, with the law and ecology, to make a proper technological knowledge transfer, transdisciplinary to authorities, to political authorities, to increase the capacity of the society and for technological optimization. And yeah, with ideas and funding, you can come to a transformative change, but then there's still the risk management. And when the risk management is too high, there will be no investment, and you will go back to the conservative approach. But with legal frameworks, for example, you can help and go back to a transformative change. Citizens' initiatives and civil input is quite important, because political movements are always considering what the civil society is giving in input. And when the data is not transferred well, or education is missing, or yeah, the civil input is somehow lacking, then this can turn also in the negative approach and back to the conservative approach, away from the transformative change. So in our case, we had the Loss of the Night project, Verlust der Nacht, a national project where we worked interdisciplinary with lighting planners, with astronomers, with social scientists and ecologists together. And we formed the global network Loss of the Night, which is still existing in form of yeah, a network working together of people interested on artificial light at night research. We had the vision of a new luminaire, and we received funding for the project Species Protection through environmental friendly lighting. We also had the IDA behind us, who did a lot of work, because all the communities that worked with us were Star Park communities, or they were interested to become or to have an area around them protected for night skies. And yeah, there was the risk management, not so much demand, high investment costs. So it was hard to get companies interested to really invest into our idea. But with the legal framework, the amendment of the Environmental Act, which said that the technological solution, which provides the least adverse effects on fauna and flora, we had a legal framework that helped and that took away the risk from the companies, and one company at least said, okay, we want to invest because we see that in future we will have to change lighting. So this was rather important that we had this legal framework. But there were also external circumstances when we were now trying to transfer our lamp into the communities that actually wanted to work with us. They were pretty hesitant, because right now we had a high inflation rate, we had an energy crisis, and they said we had different problems. Although there's funding, we don't know why we should invest right now, because we have an own part that we have to invest, and this is rather too high right now. We do not want to go in this direction. It's not a really important project for us. So we really had to convince, please stay with us. It's important. We need to change. We need the transformative change. And then with the monitoring, we can now show that there is a lot of insect that we can save with this new technology. And the data from the monitoring will go back to science and will be used in new projects, interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sorry, can you mute yourself, please? And we hope that with this data that comes back, we have a strengthened network, we have better legal frameworks, and we can create a better optimization of the technology. So this is our way, and it's still a long way to go. And here I want to come to my last chapter. How is all of this associated with St. Bridget and the day you celebrate today? I had the nice task to read into this because we do not have this bank holidays, and I did not know anything about St. Bridget's. And what I found was a really nice sentence, that within 100 years of her death, there was a thriving egalitarian monastery of men and women living and practicing their spirituality equally, side by side. I really like the sentence, and I also like that she's credited with founding a school of art, including metalwork and illumination. So she's really someone we would need. I was at the Future Light conference in 2019 and wanted to present also a development we did in our working group. I found a conference very highly male dominated, and the keynote speakers were 100% male at this conference. But at the session we talked about, the sustainability session it was called, 98% were female speakers. So I found here in this lighting conference, and also, yeah, mostly this is just one example, that men and women living and practicing their spirituality equally side by side is not there any longer. It's missing. It's a lack in our society. We are not working together. We are working in different subjects. That's what I thought, and I wanted to find some numbers for this, not just showing you just a random example from my experience. And I was astonished what I found. The STEM courses, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, are subjects, courses in education on university, which are male dominated. There are a lot of projects done to get girls and to get young women into these subjects and to increase women in natural science in the STEM courses. And it was found out that when these natural science is interdisciplinary with spatial planning, geoecology, environmental engineering, with creativity or health or well-being, then women are more intended to visit these courses. And I was astonished to see the global numbers on this. The UNESCO has put this together. So while technology, engineering, mathematics, manufacturing, construction, and engineering is male-dominated globally, with small exceptions in some countries, the area of health and welfare is globally women dominated. And I thought this is really showing what I felt in all these conferences. This is really showing what, how divided our world still is, with men and women being interested in different subjects. But when we come back to nature-centric lighting and what is needed for outdoor lighting, to not spill the light everywhere, but to illuminate with nature, not against it, then we need creative people. We need people that care about well-being and health, and we should invite these people. So please invite more women into leadership of lighting. And with this, I want to say thank you. I'm looking forward to your questions, and Giorgio, I think the floor is yours again.
Oh, thank you so much, Sibylle. That's very enlightening. Pardon the pun. I'm just going to see if we have some questions. I have a few questions myself, but I would like to throw it up to our audience, because I'm sure somebody has some questions for you. And thank you very much for the research you did on St. Bridget. That was lovely and really nice, as you say, really nice sentence and contribution there. Okay, we have a question from Geraldine. Geraldine says, is your newly developed light available commercially?
No, it's not yet, but we are doing a lot of things, and the table that I've shown is actually old-fashioned already, because the companies, it's called Zelux, it's based in Berlin, that developed the light. They have worked a lot with this, and they will in the next years also do optics and change the radius in the pathway. So we hope that they will really put it into their program. This has lots to do with our monitoring, the publication that needs to come out now. And I hope that we get the legal framework that this has to come on the market, and that other companies, startups, adopt the idea. It's all transparent, and everybody, it's not rocket science. Everybody can adopt this idea and put better lighting into the world.
For sure. Well, we hope that's successful very soon, and I hope it's very widespread as well. I know these things take a long time to get out there, but just again, we've a question from two here. So Vanessa says, thanks for the presentation. Are the luminaires in your project using LED lights?
Yes, I think the LED lighting is the technology we have right now that can be adopted in the light color. I did not speak about the light color much, but this can add up to the reduction of the insects that we found when we have done different experiments also with the shielding, the shutter box, and changed light colors, and this really showed a difference. And for changing light color and for using the small amount, the LED technology right now is the best technology to take.
And what light temperature were you using in there? Are you still
We adapt to the lighting which we have right now at the street. So in some areas it's 4000 Kelvin, and in the areas of the AUB project, they are already pretty conscious about their lighting. We have sodium vapor lighting, so we take Kelvin LED lighting with 2000 and less Kelvin.
Okay, that's something that's would be unheard of here. We have pretty much nothing less than 3000. That would be our lowest at the moment, but we are working on that. So
but yes, what we found was that the shielding of the light was the bigger reduction, and then the light color could add to it. But you can, when you have 3000 Kelvin, you can do a lot with dimming the illuminance.
That's a very good point, and that's another thing we need to work on here in Ireland, but we can come back to that. John Healy has a question. Thanks, John. He says many people have been taught to fear the dark. What are some things you do to help people be more comfortable when the night is not as bright as the day? That's a good question.
I actually walk with people into the dark and I make them aware that the step from very bright illuminated areas into the dark is the one that gives us the biggest fear. So really walking out of an illuminated area into the dark is really something we dislike. And then I always tell them, okay, you need seconds now to adopt your eyes, and then everything will be better. If you were a frog, you would need 45 minutes and you would sit in the dark. So imagine how hard it is for them. And then when you stand in the dark, you actually can look into the light, and it's much nicer. And the people, when I do the experiment, they often want to walk back in the dark because they know it's just one step going out of the illumination into the dark. But what we shall do for our cities is illuminate less, so that we do not have these gaps. If we all would agree to illuminate on a very low level, then you almost hardly have any gaps between illuminated and dark areas.
Yeah, I think that's a real hurdle to convince people on, because that's the key, that we don't need as much contrast. And you know, we have so much fear because it's so brightly lit in one very contained area, as you showed in some of your pictures there, and that by contrast makes it so dark on either side, let's say. So you know, we are, I think, you know, to illuminate less overall is definitely the way to go. Now I'll just have another look at Anna. Hi Anna. Anna Levin is has put a question. Can we have a more detailed spec of your new lighting somewhere? So I know you've just mentioned the CCT, the correlated color temperature.
Yes, you actually can use any LED lighting in this. It's just a panel, and you can use any spectrum.
Great. And Etta, hi Etta, has a previous speaker for Women in Dark Skies for us. Can you elaborate more on the EIR parameter? It sounds a bit technical.
Yes, that's the edge illumination ratio. That's very technical, and I had to learn about this as well. So this is actually used at the sidewalks of streets to see that the pathway is illuminated right. But for us, it is a value we use to show that at the edge towards the water, because mainly you have the paths as riparian area. So you have a cycling path, for example, right at the river, and we do not want to have any illumination on the river. So we use this value that is taken for the sideway, that we come down with a full cutoff to as low emission as possible, and that it's really dark where it needs to be dark, at the surface of the water or at the greenery. And this is why we use this parameter from the lighting planners, from street lighting, as a parameter to really cut off. I hope I could answer your question, Etta.
I was wondering because, so in terms of aesthetic lighting design, also security lighting design, face recognition and silhouette recognition is a huge topic. So cutting off the pathway as you have shown it is of course a threat to silhouette recognition in a way. So I was wondering if this parameter actually is meant the other way around in the lighting design community, and you just turn it around and have it as in a green color.
Yeah,
And I was wondering,
yeah, this is part of the transformative change. We really need to see what is needed and where. And yes, for safety on a very road with high speed, you will need the edge illumination ratio like it is planned today, that you really can see who's on the pathway, and that you have a security buffer zone which is illuminated. But when we speak about pathways of for cyclists, which is going through natural protected areas, we really need to consider this ratio differently, and we really need a full cutoff here, because we do not need any light further than the pathway that has to be illuminated. And when we go down with the illuminance, then we don't have or we also are not blinded because of the direct emission from the luminaire's head. Then we will be able to see better what is outside in the dark. Because the blinding effect is, and that's why I also made a big circle about the TI value, which is a value for the glare. So we are blended, we cannot perceive anything in the dark. And when both is down, then the edge illumination ratio can go down. Thank you, Edda, for the question, because I hope I could clarify here a bit.
Yeah, yes, you could. And also, it's not as bad as in the photo, right? So the camera would make it much stronger, this contrast.
Which
compared to a natural vision.
Yeah, I think the photos show quite clearly that we have only the path illuminated and not the trees around it, but we still see the trees. And it's always different when you're there with your eyes and not have a camera that always tries to adopt the illuminance level to the lightest or darkest point of the picture. So it's always different when you see it and when you experience it.
I think that is one of the challenges, is to communicate lighting when you don't, so rarely do people actually come and look at lighting in situ at night. So we rely on those photographs that are not always representative in some cases. And I just wanted to say, Sibylle, your comment about we need to find out the utilance rather than the efficacy of lights. I think that's a really important point that we've all missed. We look at that and we're told, you know, the efficacy of the light's not right if you go towards the ecologically friendly, but you know, what is it going to be used for? And you know, that spread that you've just referred to there, you only wanted it specifically for that project to shine, to illuminate the ecological, the non-ecological area. So it's knowing what you're using your light for, which is a big question that we need to.
Yeah, and it was actually quite hard to find a company that could make only the pathway illuminate and have a really cut off at the pathway. And we were pretty happy that we found Zelux this way to give out the task and say, we just want to have the pathway illuminated and no light emission outside of the target area.
I'm going to take off our spotlights, Sibylle, and that will show everyone else if they're happy for us to do that. Just give me 1 second now, because what we can do is you have a few questions for our visitors as well. Would you like me to run that poll now, or?
Okay, I forgot in the beginning. I just starting, but we can do it now. Yes.
I think, it might be interesting. So, folks, if you don't mind, I'm going to just run a poll because Sibylle had a couple of questions, so I'm going to launch it now and you can tell us what you think. So hopefully, is that five very short questions for you, which Sibylle has put together. So far, only one person's answered, I think. And Sibylle, while people are going through those questions, I'm just looking in the chat again because we have a few more questions. Pauline Woolley had said, can the LED color be changed? So I think you covered that. So yeah, I think yes is the answer there. Caroline says, thank you very much, and informative and enjoyable. Claire Nee says, brilliant presentation. I noticed there's very little concern or legislation around light pollution in the political sphere in Ireland. You are so right, Claire. There are huge amounts of unnecessary LED light pollution now in Irish towns and cities. Hopefully your work will be influential across Europe. So we would very much welcome that too. And Alice says, I know very little on this, so apologies if a stupid question, but this is a really good question. But why don't we have lights that are motion sensitive? Do you have any comment on that from your experience in Germany? I suppose with public lighting is probably what Alice is getting at, but
yeah, as from my experience, there's a lot that's going on in dynamic lighting in the development, but in the communities, mostly cities have the capacities to invest into dynamic lighting, and it's often not really considered. It's considered in Fulda, for example, because they are a star community, and they are very much interested to have as least light emission as possible. And there it is used, but you need to invest into this, and I just did not refer to it because we lack a lot of research there. We do not know how flora and fauna reacts to light and where the thresholds are. So if you really blast on the light with very high illuminance and then cut down a lot, that would be bad. I guess we all agree. But where are the thresholds? How light can you go? How far should you go down? So we really lack in research. We need a lot more there, because the dynamic light is a solution which can be really important in future.
Thanks, Sibylle. And yeah, Alice, I think it is a very good question that a lot of it, as Sibylle said, it's cost as well as trialing. So we just aren't there, and the lights are expensive anyway for public authorities. So I know some countries are using motion sensitive lights where traffic reaches a certain point and then that itself knocks on the lights ahead. So that would be something perhaps in the future, but we're just not quite there yet.
But away from this, a lot of people are not aware. We also have the technology for vapor lighting. So you can reduce the power current for these lightings at the, we call it Stromzähler, the electricity power board. So the communities can save the energy directly in just cutting down the power for the lamps for whole streets. And the company that provides this device is offering that they only pay after 1 year when they have savings anyway. So I like the system. It's called dim light very much. And before you invest into LED lighting, you can just try it out for a couple of years. You will have the benefits within 1 year.
That sounds attractive. Yeah. Some of our issues are we have a lot of unmetered lighting, so it's all collective. So the local authority doesn't necessarily benefit if some of the power is reduced. It's already on preset rates and dimming levels. So that's a bit of a challenge here, but that might be peculiar for us. Well, let's have a quick look at your poll. So thanks everyone who...
Just shortly, I saw that ETA has answered to the dark sky communities. This is a program by the IDA. And yeah, if you're interested that even as a sitter, you can apply. And yeah, then you can have a look on the website. Thank you, ETA.
Great, thanks, ETA. So for those, I don't know if you can see the results. Can you guys see the results? Probably not. Of this poll? No.
I see the results.
Maybe because we're hosting, so I'm going to read them out first in case I lose them. So are you aware of the International Dark Sky Association? So we have 14 as close, 49% yes and 51% no. So that's our, I suppose from Mayo's perspective, that is the global authority that we are a member of, and they regulate our dark sky park. So we have to do annual reports on how good or bad our quality of night sky is. So Sybille's next question was, did you know that even urban areas can be certified? So that's a bit of a difference. So 78% of people said no and 22% yes. And I think that's really important in our, I suppose, catchment for reducing light pollution, is that we can do it in urban areas. We don't have to make everywhere as dark as a dark sky park or reserve. You can get urban dark skies, which is just through very sensible lighting practices, as Sibylle has outlined. How important is the protection of areas from light emissions to you? So 81% of people have said it's extremely important, which is nice. So nobody said it's not important at all. I guess they wouldn't be here if they felt that way too. And have you ever planned your holiday destination solely by the dark sky quality? So 61% no, and 39%, which is quite high, have said yes. And would the quality of the night sky be a criteria on the choice of buying land or a house? And interestingly, 89% have said yes, it would. So that's that is quite interesting. I'll share those results now. Sorry, I didn't know I could do that until now, so you can probably see them yourselves. So I think we're coming to the end. I'll just check the chat box again, Sibylle, but a lot of people, oh, hi, there's Karen. Hi, Karen. Has said, wonderful, informative presentation. Thank you. Alice has said, thank you. Pauline, how do urban areas become certified? And I think that's the one that Eta's answered, is it? Yeah. It is, yeah. Perfect. Very interesting. Thank you. Thank you. So I don't see.
I see another question. If I said that frogs need 45 minutes to adjust to sunlight, yes, that's true. They are the organisms with the most sensitive eyes we know. They can see like we as at nighttime, but when you blind them with a torch, they need about 45 minutes to adapt again to the dark. And in this area, they cannot move and they're easy prey.
Well, thank you. Well, folks, I think we are at the end now. So I just brings me to say thank you, Sibylle, for a really interesting presentation full of lots of research. I've loads of notes written down here about lighting and loads of things I learned. So I hope, I'm sure there's lots of other people who learned a lot as well. It was really enjoyable too. So you're a great speaker. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who's joined us and taken the time to stay with us. So it's been really nice. And folks, just to say that I hope you'll join us again. Keep an eye on mayo.skypark.ie. And also our next speaker, we have a couple of events coming up. We have Irish Astronomy Week, which is the 20th of March to the 26th of March. We're taking part this year in the Star Count 2023, which is a UK initiative, but we are also doing that at Dark Sky Ireland. So that's on the 17th of February for a week, counting stars, and that helps us with citizen science data so that we can relay the sky quality. Then the Irish Astronomy Week, I've mentioned that. 21st of March is Women in Dark Skies with Teddy Huang, who will be joining us then. So with that, thank you very much. And Sibylle, once again, thank you for joining us. And we look forward to seeing you all another time. Happy St. Bridget's Day, everyone.
Thank you very much. Have a happy St. Bridget's Day. It's a nice day, and I hope I could encourage some women to become leader in lighting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks, Georgia, for the organization.
Thanks, you too. We'll see you again soon. Take care.
Yeah.